Hi, my name is Lexi Stratton and I'm going to be showing you my facial and cranial bone model. So first and foremost, I want to point out that I have all the structures and bones color coordinated with a label/flag coming out of the structure with a toothpick. I also want to comment on my suture lines. They are meant to look like stitches to show that it's separating two bones, and also it gave me Halloween vibes, and I love Halloween. So starting with the back of my model, I have the very lowest point, I have the magnum foramen of the occipital bone, and the magnum foramen is a hole, and it houses up in here, up inside the skull is where the medulla oblongata would be and the brainstem, and then coming out of it would be the spinal cord. So here's the occipital bone, and it is separated from the parietal bones with the lambdoid suture. Parietal bones are separated from each other with the sagittal suture. Frontal and parietal are separated from the coronal suture. Next, we have the temporal bone. Right here, this is the squamosal portion. This is the squamosal suture. Then we have the sphenoid bone right here, which looks like a bat. I try to draw it like a bat. Switching back to this side, down here we have the external auditory meatus. Right here I made it a little sequin. It's supposed to be deeper in the ear, more middle ear, and it's kind of on the outer ear here, but I couldn't cut his ear off. Behind the ear we have the mastoid process. Okay. Up here we have the condyle process of the mandible, and that is where the maxilla connects with the mandibular fossa on the temporal bone. And then next to that we have the coronoid process. Right here we have the entire mandible, and these vertical lines are the ramus. This would be kind of the body of the mandible. I think that says body. Next we have the lips, and we have the orbicularis oris. And so that is really what I want to emphasize, is the orbicularis oris. It is that sphincter muscle that helps us bring our lips together. And it's not really as important for articulation, but I feel like it would be for whistling. And like whistling's voiced, so, or it's voiceless, I guess. But, so yeah, for a voiceless sound, I guess you could bring those lips together in that sphincter motion. The lips are also important in articulation for the labiodental phonemes. And, okay. Next, up here, this blue surface is the maxilla, the body of the maxilla. The processes are all dotted lines. So we have dotted lines here, we have dotted lines here. This would be the frontal process of the maxilla, and this would be the zygomatic process of the maxilla. So thus being the zygomatic bone, which is the cheekbone. The maxilla is the upper jaw. So next we have the nose. So up top, these little red clothespins work as the nasal bone. We have the lacrimal bone, is shaped as a tear, can't get my finger in here, as a teardrop right here. Next we have the frontal, we already mentioned the frontal process of the maxilla. We also have the ethmoid bone right here in green. So that ethmoid bone is going to be really important with the cribriform plates to separate the nasal cavity and the cranium. And then with the ethmoid bone, the perpendicular plates are also going to be, or perpendicular plate is going to be very useful for contributing to the septum and splitting the nostrils with the left and the right nostril. We also have a little orange dot right here. That's supposed to be the inferior nasal concha, and the nasal concha work to warm and filter the air that comes in the nasal cavity. Then we have the vomer bone. Okay. Let's see, I'm trying to see if I missed any. One thing that I did miss is right here between the cheeks and the teeth would be the buccal cavity, and that would be the lateral sulci. Yeah, okay, so the cranial bones are most important to house and protect the brain. And then certain, like the cranial bone, the ethmoid bone, is important for separating that nasal cavity. Yeah, and the nasal cavity is important for the nasal resonance, the use and the absence of the nasal resonance.